Can 2 plus 2 ever not equal 4?
Like, if I were to, like, think about the logic of math, maybe there's someone who could come up
No,
with
can
that.
2 plus 2 ever not equal 4?
By the rules of math, probably not. I don't know. Do you guys?
And the rules of math would be an extension of logic, right?
Well, life isn't exactly like math.
Unless there was missing information.
Yeah. But I just want to make sure that we're clear that there can be no your math, my math, right? There cannot be
unless there was missing
you
information.
have a math where 2 plus 2 does not equal 4, and I have a math where 2 plus 2 does equal 4. 2 plus 2 has to equal 4, right?
Unless there's missing information,
What?
because 2 plus 2, if there's missing information in the middle.
What do you mean? No,
Yeah,
it literally,
2
there is no,
threes
what
plus
missing
2
information?
threes. If there's missing
The
information.
question is,
yeah.
2 plus 2 equals 4.
Yeah.
So what would be an example of missing information?
That would be like.
2 plus 2 plus 3?
No. That would be if
2 plus
was,
parentheses 2 times 2 parentheses plus 2 equals 4?
That would be, it would be illogical if you were
Into the mic,
talking-
please. Can you?
Yes. So
Thank you.
2 plus 2 could not equal 4 only if there was missing information.
What missing information?
If the 2
Give
was
us an example.
Okay. If the 2 was referring to another group. So if you're saying
So A plus B equals 4.
no.
Okay, so what's... Sorry, go ahead. Okay, I'm sorry. It's just
Okay.
I've never heard this before. So
Okay.
please just try to explain.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 2 plus 2 always equals 4 if you don't have any missing information. But
what?
if you have missing
what?
information,
So assuming that you
Yeah.
have all the information, I understand
Okay.
what you're saying. You're saying that
Yes.
2 could be a representative of some other category that is not 2,
True.
right? But if 2 is a representative of some other category which is not 2, then it is no longer 2. Correct?
then it's no longer 2.
Yeah,
but
then it's no longer the same question. So assuming
that's
that
true.
the
But I
category
think
2 does not.
talking to her point, what she's saying is that there's missing information. When you guys talk about this question about man versus bear, there's missing information. Like, you guys are putting it up to like make fun of women for feeling like bad about feeling scared of a man. That's what I hear when I hear the question. You know,
but that's just
And,
feelings.
Okay,
That's
well,
not-
I'd like
it's
to
not the
finish
intent.
if it's possible. So I think that women were taught from a young age. Like in middle school, I was shown a video about all the things that men could do to you. Like they could go under your cars and slash your Achilles heel.
Yeah. Hang on. Before we get into this, though,
Okay.
and I'll let you make your point because I want you to be able to. Can we get back to this idea that 2 plus 2, there's some scenario where 2 plus 2 is not going to equal 4?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Two
you
groups
agree with
of
me that
3
there's
would
no,
not equal 4.
Hang on, that there's no scenario where if you understand that 2 represents 2 ones and another 2 represents 2 ones, that it is impossible to add 4 ones together and not get 4. Correct?
I agree. Without any missing information, I agree. But
That
I'm,
doesn't-
Okay, so then
I'm
it can't be.
comparing
It
it
can't
to
be. Then
her.
hang on. So then hang on. I just want to make sure we're clear.
Okay.
So then it can't be her math versus my math. That's why I was making trying to get her to understand. There's only one way to do logic because there's laws which govern logic, just like there's laws which govern mathematics. That's my point.
Yes.
So in one add-on question here, in a scenario where you're presented with 2 plus 2, what would be the scenario where there could ever be quote unquote missing information from an equation?
So that would be if 2 was referring to an amount. So if you're like, in school we're learned that it's ones, like how Andrew said 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. But
So
2 could be
three?
referring. No,
Like
1
2
plus 1
dozens.
plus
One
1.
plus
She's
one
making.
plus
She's
one
making.
plus
Brian.
one
She's making a category
equals
error. So what
4.
she's saying you could have 2 as a representative of something which is not 2 ones.
Yes. We're taught in school
but
that
okay.
2 is represented by
Nick,
2 ones.
can you pull up a tab? Can you pull up a tab? Just a blank notepad, and then just write 2 plus 2.
Yeah, well, a calculator is going to always be in the ones and tens, just like we're taught in school.
Are you talking about like X and Y, A
No.
and B?
No. I'm talking about ones and tens. I think Andrew knows what I'm talking about.
Is she making sense, Andrew? Because I'm not following at all.
Well, I'm trying to be as charitable to this as I possibly can, so I just want to make sure I got it clear. I think that what you're saying, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you can utilize the representation of the number 2 to refer to information that has nothing to do with 2 ones, correct?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Wait.
That you can do, but then the value 2 no longer represents what we're saying when we say 2, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that, yeah, I mean, you can do that, but it's just kind of meaningless ultimately to the question of 2
Yeah,
plus
well,
2
I
equals
also
4.
feel like we're doing the thing with the man versus bear where it's becoming to that point too, where we're like, you're trying to like put someone down for feeling like they're scared of a man.
I think where they're going with it, it's not really anything like that. I think they're just saying, like, if you, for some reason, were stuck somewhere, would you rather be with someone that could help you, possibly, or with a bear that they're in nature, they don't have any instinct of helping you or getting you out of
I
there.
agree that that's the question, but I'm talking about the intention of the question when you talk about it in a group like this. Like, you're trying to look at women and say, like, oh, isn't that funny that you're afraid to be alone with a man?
No,
No,
I think
yeah,
they
it
just
is.
took
No,
it.
it
That's
is.
what I
It is.
hear.
It
That's
is.
what I
That's
hear.
what I heard.
That's
No,
what
I
I
just
hear
wanna
to
be
her. You're
charitable
saying
to your
like, oh,
view.
ha ha. Like,
No, it is.
I don't
Because
like,
I agree with your view. So hang on, let me be charitable to your view. I also think that the intent of the question is to get to something deeper. That's what you're saying here, right? The intent of the question is to get at something deeper. But that's what I'm doing with the logical cross-examination, is trying to see if when we go deeper, if this makes less sense or more sense. You say that that's to laugh at you, but I think that it's not to laugh at you, but it's to make a determination as to what is rational and true versus what's based purely on emotion. And so that's not shaming you.
Is
Isn't
it
the opposite
rational?
of shaming
Let me
you?
finish.
Isn't it the opposite of shaming you to say, listen, I'd like to rationally go through this to see if this actually makes sense, and I'm going to treat you as a peer while we do that. That seems like the opposite of shaming.
yeah, well, you did that to her, and now I think it's time to move on.
Well, hold on.
I mean, he did that to her.
Did what?
I don't think he was trying to like shame her or anything. I think he was
I think
just
he
Like
was.
personally, I don't feel shamed. I just don't think that you were really trying to understand my point. It came off like you were trying to look at this as a logic game when we all know that it's not.
It is.
It is a.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
is
Like-
kind of
Well,
It
like
is
I
logical.
think that the point is that like I don't see this whole scenario as necessary in the same way that you do, and that's fine. I just think that obviously we were trying to get at something deeper, and people were trying to explain that from their own experience, from emotion, or whatever it is that you think is superficial in this sense, or I don't know exactly how you're viewing it. I just think that in this situation, that's where people were coming from. And the idea of trying to boil it down to just a logic game is aside from the
How
point.
else can we determine, how can we make determinations about whether or not something's a rational fear or an irrational fear, or something makes sense or it doesn't make sense, unless we use logic and we use some way to probe this from some changing standard, which logic would be, to make a determination as to whether or not, hey, there could just be a mass delusion going on here. Perhaps you do think these things from the position of how you feel. That's fine. I'm not saying you can't feel that way. I'm just saying it could be irrational that you feel that way. And
It's
so
like-
how am I supposed to discuss it with you if you just shut down and say, but I hate that logic stuff because all that matters is how I feel? Doesn't that seem, again, irrational?
I think that it's just a sensitive topic, so people get heated over it.
Wait, you were going to come in on something?
Yeah, I was just going to comment on the whole rationality thing. Like, I think her point is, like, this doesn't have anything to do with, like, rationality, because it's like putting on a seatbelt. Like, you put on your seatbelt just because, like, in case. It's like in case situation. Like, you're not going to choose the man in case something were to happen. It's not just it's not because we're like, oh, there's like this percentage that it's going to happen to me today. Today's the day. Like, if I choose the man, it's going to, like, no one's thinking about it in that way. It's just like,
Can I ask you a
in
question?
case.
So,
But then hang on. I get it. But wouldn't that be irrational then?
Christine donated
Wouldn't it be
$200.
irrational?
As a female, I will be honest and say that this bear versus man debate is just a low-key way for
Wow.
us women to remind you men that we hate you and or have a low-level contempt towards your gender. F you.
Damn.
I mean, I do actually think that's what it is. There's no, it's not rational. It's not logical. It's simply social signaling about how much women either don't like men or how they feel. This is a perception, how they feel. They
Can
are
I say
unsafe
something?
around men. Can you let me finish my
the reason
statement?
I think this, I would just want to give you my perspective real quick, and then I'll turn it back over. Right? I think that people could put themselves, especially women, in much greater danger by only appealing to their emotion instead of refusing to appeal to logic, rationality, but rather just appealing to emotion. I think that that's a way that people put themselves in much higher categories of danger. So when I'm assessing this, I think, well, maybe you're also doing something which is horrible for you, and you don't even realize that you're doing something which is horrible for you. You know what I mean? How can I make those assessments as to whether or not you're even doing what's in your own best interest if I can't rationally analyze it? If I have to just go off of your emotions.
You had something?
I was just going to say, logically, are you scared of something that's bigger than you, that's stronger than you? Us as women, we are weaker to men. So I think it is a little bit of a survival instinct just to be on the lookout. I mean, if we're talking about
Well, I
rationality
mean-
and logic,
a bear-
I'm not
Let me answer your
saying,
question.
no, I'm not saying that all men are bad and will hurt you. I think most men
No,
want
I'm
to
not
help
saying that
and
either, but
protect,
you
but
asked the
I'm
question.
saying
The
logically,
question that you
if
asked,
you're
hang on,
stronger
the
than me,
Yeah, but the question that you asked is, isn't it logical to be afraid of things which are bigger and stronger than you? Well, then by that logic, men should be afraid of many other men, right?
right. So like if you're in a fight, for example, and the guy is way bigger than you, aren't you going to be a little bit more nervous to fight him, for example?
Yeah, so that would be rational. So in this particular case,
Exactly.
then what's bigger, a man or a bear?
Are we
What has
still on
more
this? I thought we were
attacks?
just talking about men.
Can we talk about
Yeah,
that?
I know,
though?
but I'm following your
But
logic.
can we talk about
right?
who attacks more women?
Because if the logic is, if something is bigger and stronger, you should be more afraid of it. And I agree with you that that's true. Then we would immediately default to the bear being way bigger and stronger than a man, so we should be way more afraid of it, right?
Absolutely. But I'm just saying, if you're talking about logical and why women are afraid of men, well, it's because you guys are bigger. It's because you guys are faster. Some might even say that you guys are smarter because we act on emotions more. So, of course, we're going to be
Okay,
a little
but hold
afraid,
on.
right?
So, like, let's just grant that, fine, a bunch of women, you're scared of men are scary. Let's grant it. Even if that were the case, it's still the suboptimal choice, just logically, that it would be a bear. To pick a bear, it's still
Absolutely. I agree.
Okay, I don't even know what you're arguing about then.
No, but you guys were saying
Let me bring
logically.
it back to this.